You don't have to know a lot of things in order to make a huge difference for the Lord in the world. But you do need to know a few things that are great and be willing to live for them and die for them.
Will I let Jesus prove to me that he's truly my strength? To let him prove inside of me that through him I can do all things.
The True Strength Life Podcast with Aaron Simpkins.
All right, everybody. The people have spoken. We have a new presidential-elect, former president, Donald J. Trump. So, obviously, majority of the country is happy about this. I say majority. It's not a very high majority, but a lot of people are very happy about this. A lot of people are very upset about this. But let's talk about a few things. Few things happened in this election that a number of people called, but most people are surprised by. Now, what I mean by that is how large of a margin that he won by. Most people were thinking that if you talk to most people in the if you listen to most people in the mainstream news, or most I wouldn't even say most, but a lot of even a lot of independent journalists and even some conservative hosts and stuff like that. A lot of people thought it was the most normal thought was that this was going to be a very close election. I did hear from some people, notably Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, were a couple that they didn't believe that this was going to be as close as a lot of people thought. And so that's what happened. Where we stand right now, I'm recording this on Thursday morning. The election happened Tuesday night. And surprisingly, because everybody thought this was going to be so close, most people thought that this would not be called for a couple days. And it was called that night. Well, called that next morning, which was amazing. Like I said, it was Tuesday night. Tuesday was the election, so Tuesday night is when they get a whole bunch of results. But a lot of people thought you weren't going to get enough to know really who was the clear winner for a couple days. But by 3 a.m. Wednesday, when I was up with our baby, my wife and I were up with our baby, newborn. I turn on the news to see what's going on, see if they have any results, and the first thing I see is President-elect Donald Trump, and I'm like, what? They already called this? This is something. So I knew immediately something must have happened drastic where there was such a red wave that so early that they were like, all right, well, this is it. This is the only way it can go. So by 3 a.m., way earlier than most people thought, which we'll get into because the mainstream is crap. Stop listening to the legacy media. Stop just following them. That's the main point. All of them were wrong. The people of the country spoke. The people of the country realized that the legacy media, the mainstream media, most of them are garbage. Most of them are wrong. Most of them are crap. Stop listening to them. Most people that actually are just real people that pay attention to real life, that talk to other real people going about real life, could just see that the narratives that and the stories being given by the legacy media and the mainstream media is just garbage. And a lot of people are seeing through that. which is a problem for the Democrats, quite honestly. And that's why you have shows like Tucker Carlson. And this isn't a full endorsement of all these shows, but I'm just naming, what is happening right now within independent journalism. Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, the Louder with Crowder, Candace Owens, PBD podcast. These people, during the election, Charlie Kirk had, I believe I saw, and I could be wrong on it could have been higher at different points, but he had like 120,000 live stream viewers at one point. Louder with Crowder, same thing. Tucker Carlson gets a couple 100,000 live stream viewers during the election. PBD had a couple 100,000. PBD also had a huge party that he threw, where he brought in a whole bunch of guests like Candace Owens and other people. And so there's this really big thing happen within independent journalism, and people are really starting to see through the crap that is given by the mainstream people. When I say mainstream legacy media, I'm talking about CNN, Fox. Yes, I'm throwing Fox in there, even though they are the conservative one of the mainstream. CNN, Fox, that's MSNBC, who's the worst. The ABCs, the CBSs, the even the BBCs now, like all those, you have to really, really be careful when you're getting all of your news content from them. They have been proven, and this election, this whole big, huge example of this election is a very in-your-face example of how most of the people on most of those programs were dead wrong about this election. And why that's important is because that means that most of those people on most of those programs that a whole bunch of people in the country still pay attention to, they were wrong in their assessment of what real people in the country actually want. And that should concern you as a viewer. If you're somebody who normally takes in that content, that should concern you on how wrong they were about what the real people of the country actually want to see happen. So what did happen? The Democrats, I believe, shot themselves in the foot, both feet, both hands, both arms, big time. They went far too left. They went far too extreme. Again, misreading what real people really want in this country. They pushed a horrible. I'm trying to be nice. They pushed a horrible candidate in Kamala Harris, who was not even elected. No vote was cast for her. She was just thrown in by the party, which turned off a whole bunch of their own supporters in the beginning of her election, like campaign. One of the worst ways to start it was the way they started it, and people just saw through that. So she was the first, or one of the first, thrown out in 2020 when she ran on her own for a presidential candidate, as a presidential candidate. One of the first to drop out because she was so bad and because nobody liked her. As the VP, which she was only put in that position because Biden literally said at a press conference, "I'm going to make sure that I pick a black woman as my VP." She was only put in that position because of those traits, not her actual qualification. And then as VP, she was literally the lowest rated by likability by polls done by the people. She was the lowest rated liked VP ever since they've kept track of those stats, which, to be fair, is I think only a couple decades. So you have someone who tried to run, dropped out immediately, was in position as VP, still is, as VP, and was the most unliked, then was thrown into the position unelected by any votes, because if they had a vote, she wouldn't have been elected because nobody likes her. So she's horrible, 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 horrible. Then all of a sudden she's put in a position, and 2 weeks later she's the savior of the country and the party. A lot of people saw through that. A lot of people saw past that. And they realized, oh, they're trying to pull one over on me, and it's not going to work. And again, they've gone too far. People remember they've tried to memory hole this, Donald Trump's first term. People remember the fact that they had more money in their pocket. People remember that groceries didn't cost 40% more like they do now. People remember that gas was $1.50 less or more. People remember that they didn't have to make the average. This is a very average stat, but the average stat across the country was $75,000 you had to make to be able to afford a house, to buy a house during Trump's term. Now it's around 120 to 130,000 to buy a house. So that money, that stat alone says you have to make, it's about 60% more money to buy a house. Well, who's gotten a 60% raise in 4 or 5 years? Nobody. So all these things, these are the types of things that Trump and the Republicans, they realized these real stats like that effectively that are very effective towards like tangible items for the everyday person in America. These are the types of things that the average person actually thinks about and considers. The Democrats could care less. And that's why, again, one of the, like, her whole running was based not solely, but her campaign was based so much on Trump is bad. It was the main thing. Trump is bad. I'm a woman. I'm a minority, which she's not even anyway. Trump is bad. I'm a woman. I'm a minority. That was her main campaign. Then it was we're gonna change from what has been. Okay, you've been in office for 3.5 years now. So are you changing from what you've already done, or what are you talking about? And then also the number one policy thing she would always bring up is abortion. Well, none of those things, which were their main things, are things that real average people in the country actually consider to be true and actually care about. So I don't know who's running it for them. I don't know who they were listening to or she was listening to. I don't even think she was in charge. I think she's just honestly a puppet. But the people have spoken. Trump is the president-elect. And at this point, like I said, I'm recording this Thursday morning. At this point, it stands he's about, depending on what you look up, but he's about 295 in electoral votes to 226 for Harris. But Nevada and Arizona haven't even come in yet, and they are looking like they're going to go Trump, which he will end up with 312 electoral votes to 226. It was a blowout. It was a blow. Another big way you know that it was a blowout was because he also won the popular vote, which a Republican hasn't done for 20 years. And quite honestly, most people thought, even people, friends of mine that are Republican, that follow things like this, they thought going forward into the future, they thought that the Republican would never, ever again win the popular vote. They were like dead set on that. It's never going to happen. The Democrats, they run everything, and people fall for it. They're never even going to get the popular vote ever again. Well, guess what? He got it. by several million, and it'll just keep going more because those 2 states left, which still have some reporting to do. Those 2 states that are left, again, are going to go Trump, and so that's just going to add to his electoral votes and to his popular votes. So all that to say, the people have spoken, the Democrats lost, and Trump is new president. Trump will be the new president. I say will be with air quotes because we have several months until that could happen. Because another thing that people are thinking about, that are worried about, is that the Democrats, in their campaigning, they tried to push her as, she's, again, the savior, the this or that, blah, blah, blah. And they're again, one of their narratives was like, he's going to be a dictator. He's going to be, he's evil. He needs to be stopped, blah, blah, blah. He's a threat to democracy, blah, blah, blah. Guess who was the only one that actually has been under persecution? It's been Trump. Trump literally got shot, but that's been memory hold. He literally was about to get shot again. That's been memory hold. He literally was under political persecution to try to not even be allowed to run. That's literally been happening, but it's been memory hold already because he's winning all of that. And so, again, real people are. He literally has a mugshot because they tried to put him in jail, but that's been memory hold. And when I say memory hold, I mean by like the legacy media, the mainstream, the leftist ran things that are, but all of that, they're so out of touch with reality and with real people in the country that the stuff they've been trying to memory hold and get rid of, the narratives they've been trying to spin, the gaslighting they've been doing, has all worked against them because real people are not falling for it anymore. And this election is the result of that. So, moving forward, Christians, still a whole bunch of you didn't get out and vote, which we need to talk about that more another time and all that. But number one, we can be happy. We can be excited for this. That's okay. We can hope that we're going to be able to all live better in terms of things aren't going to be as tight. In other words, individual economic empowerment. Under Trump and under his policies, the average person will do better. Their money's going to do better. We're gonna do better, and we saw that before, and we don't see it now. We're going to see it again. There was a story that just came out that I haven't looked into this, so I only saw a couple headlines. But there was a couple headlines I saw that Hamas leaders have already called to end. They've already called to an end of their fighting because of the fact that Trump's elected. Again, I don't know what necessarily the details are of that because I haven't really looked into it. But that's interesting, how the narrative of he's a dictator, he's going to start World War III, when actually he was the only president that had no new wars. He's the only president that had the most amount of peace under him. And now when it looks like he's going to be a president again, enemies and other people around the world, like they're starting to step down. So, isn't that interesting? As Christians, this is a call to Christians. Be excited, be happy. Don't rub it in anybody's faces. Like I said in the last episode about Christians voting, we should be able to have these conversations and not get all weird and awkward about it. We're allowed to talk about politics. One of the reasons why I think it's important that we show that we're allowed and that we can talk about politics is because if one of a great see people as Christians, people are afraid to talk about politics because they don't want to ruin their witness. No, what a better witness is to show that we can actually have these rational, calm conversations about a subject that a lot of people get upset about, but we can be the example of how to have good conversations about it without it going off the rails, without it getting all just emotional and then, ending relationships and things like that. So we need to be the example in this to be able to have these conversations, to show how we can have these conversations with people we totally disagree with, and things like that. Like it's actually a good thing to do that. We need to do that. So, so in your excitement of Trump winning, don't rub it in people's faces. Christ is king, still, always will be. God is in control. And for people who are really, really upset right now that Trump is the president-elect, use the fact that God is still in control as a way to hopefully comfort them, and be that witness. And, hey, yeah, we disagree on politics, but you know what? Even above whoever's president, I believe God is still in control, and he has not given us a spirit of fear. And, you can get into that conversation with people. And you could even reverse it and say, like, hey, if I would have been Trump if Trump would have lost, that would not have gone the way that I would have hoped. But you know what? I'm okay. If that would have happened, I'm still okay. My family's still okay. And I know God is still in control. I still trust him. He still provides for me. And I'm okay moving forward. If it had been differently, if it had gone differently. So show that we can actually have these conversations with people. Show that this can actually happen. And that, I think, is the good witness that we can have with people. But it's going to be interesting going forward. It's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that happen. There's going to be, unfortunately, a lot more bad things that happen. But as things stand right now, after the election 2024, it does look like Trump is going to be president on January 20th when he's sworn in. If he was not your guy, it's okay. It's okay. When we can talk again in 6 months to a year, and you tell me how you're doing with more money in your pocket. You tell me how you're doing. Don't get caught up in all the emotional arguments. I've had this conversation recently. If you're someone who gets so emotional and has such a visceral emotional reaction to things, whatever it is, within that emotional moment, always ask yourself, is this true? Because if it's not true, then not to say that those emotions and that feeling is not real and that you're not really actually feeling that. But if it's not true, though, then it shouldn't be a lasting feeling. It should be something that your rationality, that your logic at some point can actually take over and help you with moving past that just emotional feeling. Because if it's not true, then it's not something you should be hung up on. If that emotional feeling is actually true, the way you feel about something, and the reason you feel about it, if that's actually true, then that's different. But a lot of times when we have emotional feelings like this, or reactions like how you see all these people, crying on social media because of this election. I even saw one lady. She's like, she's crying her eyes out. This black lady. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow a slave. Like, that's not true. It's just not true. None of that is true. All these people crying, it's not true. What you're thinking is such, as he's going to be a dictator, as he's going to do this or that, he's going to take away my rights, all this. None of that is true. Okay? So sit back, calm down, and just see what happens. Just it's okay. It's okay. Things are going to be okay. And ask yourself, is it true? That should always be a question with everything that we ask ourselves. Is that true? So I guess that would be my going away message. Is that true? Ask yourself that. If no matter how you feel, if you feel this is the best thing ever and Trump is our savior, is that true? Because no, it's not. So even if you feel amazing about something, you still need to ask yourself, is that true? So, but there you go. That's my election reaction. Obviously, I'll have more conversations in the future about this, but this was just an extra episode I want to get out because this was such a big thing that happened, obviously, and so this was some of my reaction to it. So there you go. So remember, guys, truth is strength.